I was 22 the year I started stacking 10-hour night shifts at the Royal Grill off Sheridan Road, the kind of corner spot that looks friendly in daylight and hollow after midnight. We were wedged into a sleepy residential strip, few teenagers, almost no late-night bar spillover, just retirees, night walkers, and the occasional drifter who wanted coffee and warmth more than food. I learned the regulars fast. Then a new one started showing up, always at 9 p.m. sharp. A man in a full-on Royal Grill King costume. Cloak, crown, mask, the whole theatrical thing. The first time I laughed. Everyone does that the first time. I figured he was shooting a prank video or trying to go viral with a mukbang. He propped his phone on a salt shaker at a booth and ordered, like a dare, 30 Flame Kings. Make them now. He peeled off a wad of cash and didn't blink at the price, like this was just what kings do. 10 minutes later, I slid 3 stacked trays to his table. He nodded, hit record on the phone, and proceeded to devour them like a machine. 10, maybe 11, before grinding to a drooling halt, arms splayed, crown tilted, snoring through that plastic smile. Midnight is our in-dining cutoff, and it's also when my shift ends. I stood by the mop bucket, listening to the last hum of the fryers waiting. "Sir, we're closing for dine-in." My voice tried to sound like corporate training videos, calm, respectful, and unshakable. The mask didn't move. Then it lifted just enough for the mouth to speak. "Me want Flame King, make me one, and then I leave." I kept my face steady. "We're closed. I need you to go." He stared with that plastic stare, stood up, and left without another word. I watched his reflection slide across the windows until streetlight swallowed it. I clocked out, threw on my hoodie, and walked the 3 blocks to the duplex I shared with my grandfather, Art. He'd raised me since I was an infant. My parents died in a wreck I can't remember, and he never made me feel the lack. On tough nights, we used to trade the controller of that old video game with the orange plastic gun. "Shoot the birdie, Evan," he'd say. "You still got it." It was almost 1 by the time I showered. Steam fogged the mirror. I was letting the hot water staple itself into my shoulders when the bathroom doorknob ticked. Once, twice, a third time, slow and oily. "Grandpa?" "That you?" A voice muffled by the door said, "Open the door." I froze. It was the same cadence from the dining room, flat, weirdly gleeful. "Open the door, open the door." My throat went tight. "You need to leave," I said, forcing the words through my teeth. "I'm calling the police." "Have it your way," the voice said, almost purring. The hinges squealed as pressure hit, then a heavy thud, the sound of skull against wood. Once, twice. The third slam punched a hairline crack near the latch. "There's an old one, 38 in the vanity." Grandpa kept it wrapped in a towel behind the cleaning supplies, a secret I pretended not to know. I turned off the water, grabbed the towel, and slid the cylinder open with shaking fingers. 6 rounds blinked up at me like dull coins. "Stop," I said, backing to the tub. "I'm armed." The plastic voice giggled, a sound too light for a grown man. "Have it your way," it whispered again. Then the door panel caved around a forehead and crown. A face pushed through the splinters, that molded grin, those painted lashes, and behind them in the dark oval eye holes, 2 wet, real eyes staring at me like I was dessert. "Get out." I fired once without aiming, a white hole of sound that swallowed the room. The head jerked, disappeared, then slammed forward again, splitting the panel wider. A hand shot through, groping for the lock. I fired again, deaf as a stone, and the hand fell. For a few seconds there was only the hiss of the pipes and my own panicked breathing. The hallway beyond stayed dark. Then I heard Grandpa's slippers, the shuffle clap on the laminate. He appeared in the doorway of my bedroom. Thin shoulders, flannel robe, hair gone like snow. He looked at the busted door and the pistol and me shaking in a towel. "That's it, Evan," he said quietly, somehow just like when I was 8, and terrified of missing a shot on the television screen. "Go on, shoot the birdie." "I did," I said. "I did, Gramps. We called the police." When they finally reached the hallway, there was blood on the carpet, splinters everywhere, and an empty crown lying like a dead animal on the bathroom floor. They found the costume later that morning behind the dumpster at the side of the building, crammed into a trash bag that hadn't been there at midnight. "Anyone been bothering you at work?" the officer asked, scrawling in a notebook. I swallowed. "A guy in a costume. Comes in at 9, they took statements. They dusted for prints. They asked neighbors if they'd seen a man fleeing down the back stairwell. Nobody had. There was a streak of blood on the newel post, but it started and stopped like a magic trick. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I didn't sleep the next one either. Every little house noise became knuckles on wood. Every car door became a crown-scraping paint. I switched to day shifts. I cut through the employee lot at full speed and never looked at the dumpster. But sometimes at the register, when I'm counting change and trying to keep my hands from shaking, I hear him in the headset, "Me want Flame King." And behind it, softer, older, Grandpa's voice like a river through a culvert. "Shoot the birdie. Evan, you still got it, the police." Closed the case as attempted home invasion by unknown individual. Corporate sent a counselor for a week who talked about boundaries and trauma, response and controlling the, controllables. Fine, I control the door now. I replaced it myself with a solid core slab and 3 new plate screws. But there's a chip in the tub from one of the bullets, a little crescent like a fingernail. And every morning when the steam beads and the glass goes slick, that's where my eyes land. Kenosha is small enough that you hear things. A janitor at the rec center said a guy with stitches across his scalp came in 3 days later asking for a locker, never took off his hoodie, and left a smear on the tile. Someone else said they saw a broken plastic crown in the weeds by the commuter lot. I pretend I don't care which rumor is true. I tell myself it's over. Some nights, walking home in the rain, the green and red glow from the Royal Grill sign turns the puddles into little carnival mirrors. I see a crown in one, and it's just the reflection of the neon. I see my own face in another, and it's someone else's eyes staring back. On those nights, I do what Grandpa taught me. Breathe, aim, squeeze. Mentally, at least. Because the thing about birds is they keep flying, right up until the moment they don't. Royal Grill's night shift felt like a secret club in Lubbock. No music, just headset crackle, fryer hiss, and rain fizzing on the awning when the weather bothered. I liked it that way. My apartment was 5 minutes walk. I'd clock out at 2, towel my hair in front of a box fan and sleep through the sun. The only real complication? The man in the hibiscus Hawaiian shirt and mirrored aviators who talked to his passenger. A fully dressed skeleton he called Jenny. He wasn't drunk. He wasn't joking. He treated Jenny like a date, whispering into the gap where her ear would have been, then turning to me. A Flame King for me, a cheeseburger for Jenny. The first time I forced a customer service smile. The third time I stared at the paper bag while my skin crawled. By his 6th visit I was numb to it. This is America. People love props until the night we ran out of cheese. I tried to keep my voice calm. We're short on Americans tonight. I can comp an extra patty or swap in pepper jack. Silence on the other end of the intercom. Then, Jenny loves cheese, I hear you. But we can't serve what we don't have, a long, slow inhale. Jenny loves cheese. Maybe it was the head cold. Maybe it was the 2 hours of non-stop headset static. Maybe it was the way he stroked the skeleton's gloved hand like he wanted me to see it. Whatever it was, something in me snapped. There's a graveyard 2 miles east, I said. Take Jenny where she belongs. I regretted it the second the words left my mouth. He didn't yell. He didn't peel out. He just sat there for 2 breaths that felt like a minute each, said nothing, and drove away. I told Miguel, my manager. He frowned, then shrugged. If he's back, call me. If he's weird, call 911. We wrote a note in the shift log. Hawaiian shirt skeleton guy. Possible harassment. The next few nights were blissfully normal. College kids in hoodies, oil field workers grabbing coffee, and a couple arguing about pickles like it was the alimony payment that would decide who got the boat. Then he came back. No skeleton this time. No order through the speaker. He ghosted right past the intercom, rolled to the window and looked straight at me, face blank. I put on the voice. Welcome to Royal Grill, how can I? A Flame King, he said. He handed me bills that were still warm from his palm. When I passed the bag back, he didn't leave. He eased into a parking spot across from the window, sat on the hood and ate while watching me. Condiments sluicing down his chin like stage blood. He never wiped his mouth. He stared until the burger was gone, then licked his fingers one by one with the same attention people use when they tie a fly for fishing. My stomach flipped. He slid into the driver's seat and drove away without looking back. Miguel told me to start my close 15 minutes early and keep the side door locked. I started wearing my keys on a lanyard. For a week, nothing. I almost missed him. Almost, because predictable weird is better than the kind that waits. Then one Monday close to midnight, his headlights carved along the wall. He had a passenger again. Not Jenny. Even through the glass and rain, I could smell the alcohol when the car stopped. A woman slumped against the seatbelt. Mascara turned to charcoal stutter marks along her cheeks. The man smiled up at my camera, our little black bubble on a stick. "Jenny's new," he said cheerily. "And she loves cheese." I backed away from the window and called Miguel's cell with my free hand while my other hovered over 911. "He's here," I whispered. "And he's got a girl with him. She's out cold. Call the police." "Lock the window," Miguel said. I heard movement, keys, footsteps. "Stay where people can see you on our cameras." I locked the window. The man watched me do it. Then he leaned across the passenger and popped the glove box. What came out was a narrow, ugly wrench scarred with old rust. He brought it up and rested it gently against the woman's temple, as though measuring a cut. His eyes never left mine. "Jenny's real," he said conversationally. "You said take her to a graveyard. You were right. She belongs in the ground." I started to hit the alarm. He moved too fast. The first blow was a dull stick sound. The second broke the skin wide. He kept talking as he swung, calm, smiling, the words bouncing in rhythm with the impacts. "She's real. She's real. She's real." Red mist clouded the glass. The woman's head rocked with the seatbelt's recoil. A smear slid down the window like ketchup on plexiglass. My hands went numb. I screamed, but my throat made no sound in my ears. The headset had swallowed it. The world snapped back in sirens. Two cruisers came the wrong way up the drive-thru lane, lights knifing through the rain. The man didn't run. He set the wrench on the dash, smoothed the passenger's hair as if it mattered, and put both hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2. When the officers dragged him out, he laughed, one quick bark, and then he looked at me. "You told me to," he mouthed, like we were sharing a joke. I woke up in the ER with a blanket up to my chin and Miguel sitting in a plastic chair, his baseball cap mangled in his hands. "They got him," he said. "She didn't make it." He didn't sugarcoat, and I appreciated that, even if some part of me wanted him to lie like a parent. "They're charging him. They'll want your statement." I gave it. I sat in a room with tape recorders and answered questions about headlights and timestamps and whether I'd ever seen him angry before. I told them about Jenny, the skeleton, and the week without cheese. I repeated the graveyard line and felt the word swing back and hit me in the chest. The detective said gently, "You didn't make him do anything." I nodded like a good witness and went home and threw out every item of clothing that had touched that shift. For weeks, I dreamed of wrenches. Woke up to the squeal of a car door in the alley and fumbled for a phone that wasn't ringing. I learned the route of every patrol car that circled our block and could tell by sound alone whether it was a Crown Vic or a Charger. I almost quit. Then a high school kid came through the lane in a tux, date and glitter, both of them glowing from prom, and he asked for extra napkins and said please and thank you, and I realized I wanted to be the person who handed them a bag and let them stay teenagers for 5 more minutes. I keep the side door locked religiously now. I keep the alarm remote on a cord around my wrist. I keep pepper spray by the headset cradle, and I am not ashamed. When the night drags and the only voices are the fryer and my own head, I breathe the way the counselor taught me. Box in, hold, box out, and count the lights on the soda machine. Red, red, blue. And sometimes when the rain comes sideways and the lot goes shiny, I see 2 figures in the reflection of the drive-thru glass. One is me with a headset. The other is a shadow in a Hawaiian shirt, just inside the edge of the neon, whispering to a girl who can no longer hear him. I do not speak to shadows anymore. I don't joke with ghosts. If you hand me money with condiments on it, I'll take it with tongs and drop it into bleach. If you say your date loves cheese, I'll tell you we're out and we're closing early, and the police are already on their way. And if you ask me whether Jenny was ever real, I'll tell you this: I saw her once, she was. When I began working at Royal Grill on Burnside Street, I believed that the night shift would provide me with easy money due to its quiet hours, free coffee, and the absence of a boss. The place sat near a 24-hour gas station, neon buzzing like a bad memory. My manager, Sharon, paired me with another new hire, a guy my age named Jason and an older employee named Marty, who'd apparently been there forever. From day one, Marty made my skin crawl. He was in his late 50s, wiry, and always smiling in a way that didn't reach his eyes. When he wasn't flipping burgers, he'd wink at us like we shared a secret. He'd say things like, "You boys smell fresh. Must be the energy of youth." The first few times I laughed it off. The third time I stopped laughing. By the second week, Jason and I called him the bathroom ghost. The guy practically lived in there. He'd take 10-minute breaks every hour, coming out smelling like hand sanitizer and cheap cologne. One night, while I waited outside the restroom, he turned around mid-pee to look at me. "You want the urinal, huh?" he said, grinning. "Come on, we can share." I stepped back and said, "I'll wait." He zipped up, didn't wash his hands, and leaned close enough for me to smell the fryer grease in his hair. "Don't be shy, kid," he said. "We're family here," I told Sharon the next day. She sighed. "Yeah, Marty's been here too long. Corporate doesn't like to fire people with tenure. Just stay out of his way." Easier said than done. The man had a radar for discomfort. If I moved to the drive-thru, he'd drift there too. If I stayed in the kitchen, he'd help me by brushing against my shoulder. Jason started cracking jokes to diffuse the tension. But even he stopped after Marty slipped a fry into his mouth from across the counter and said, "Open wide, pretty boy." That Friday, Sharon said Marty would be working out front for a promotion stunt. "Corporate sent a mascot suit," she explained. "You know, the Royal King. He's supposed to wave cars in and make it fun." Marty volunteered. Jason smirked. "At least he won't be near the bathroom." By 8 p.m., the rain started. Portland rain isn't dramatic, it's constant, like static. I was working the grill. Jason was on the register, and Marty stood outside under the canopy, waving in cars in his new foam crown and oversized robe. The mask looked ridiculous, a porcelain grin, painted lashes, and a mouth frozen in perfect cheer. At 10 p.m., Sharon left, saying, "Lock up at 2. Text if anything weird happens." At midnight, it did. Jason went to restock napkins. I cleaned the fry station, humming to the music from my phone. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the king standing by the window. At first, I thought he was just staying dry. But then he waved, slow, deliberate, and didn't move. I opened the window. "We're closing in 10, Marty," I said, no answer. Just that frozen grin. Then he lifted a hand and pointed, not at me, but at something behind me. When I turned, the kitchen lights flickered. Jason wasn't there. The mop bucket was overturned, water spreading like veins across the tile. "Jason?" I called. The mask outside tilted like it was listening. Then it disappeared. My heart kicked hard. I grabbed my phone and stepped toward the hallway that led to the back. That's when I heard the heavy thump, someone running fast from the restroom area. I froze, thinking it was Jason playing around, not funny. I shouted. A shape rounded the corner. The Royal King, dripping water, holding a kitchen knife from the prep counter. "Marty!" I yelled, "Stop!" He didn't stop. He raised the knife and started walking toward me, each step leaving a wet mark on the tile. I stumbled back, grabbed the nearest thing, a long metal spatula, and swung it uselessly. He lunged. The knife missed my stomach by inches and clattered against the fryer. Hot oil hissed, spraying up like fireworks. The mascot slipped on the spilled water, falling hard, the mask cracking against the edge of the counter. I kicked the knife away, grabbed the spatula handle like a club, and raised it. He groaned, a weird muffled sound like someone choking under a pillow. "Stay down," I screamed. "Don't move!" He tried to sit up. I swung once, reflex more than thought. The spatula connected with a hollow crack. The mask split, half falling away. The face underneath wasn't Marty. It was Jason. He was pale, with glassy eyes and a cut bleeding above his eyebrow. His lips trembled. I was trying to... The sentence never finished. His body went limp. The world went silent except for the fryer, still hissing from the oil splash. My mind blanked. The knife gleamed near the drain. I kicked it further away, dropped the spatula, and backed into the corner. The door to the restroom creaked open. Someone stepped out, Marty, the real one. No costume, just his Royal Grill polo half untucked. He looked at the scene, the broken mask, Jason on the floor, and smiled. "You boys sure get dramatic," he said. I started shaking. What did you do? He wiped his hands on a rag, completely calm. He wanted to prank you. I told him the suit was in the storage closet. Guess he didn't realize I left the knife in there from cutting boxes. Accidents happen. You watched? He shrugged. Didn't want to interfere. Teaches you both a lesson about respect. I ran for the door. Police came 20 minutes later. Marty was gone. They found Jason alive, barely, and rushed him to Legacy Emanuel. He'd lost a lot of blood but survived. The knife had sliced his arm when he fell. He doesn't talk to me anymore. The detectives took statements, fingerprints, everything. They never found Marty. Corporate called it a workplace incident and closed the store for 2 weeks. When we reopened, a new crew came in. Sharon transferred. Jason quit. Sometimes I drive past that Royal Grill and the new Mascot waves out front with the same frozen grin. I wonder if they ever cleaned the fryer under the right counter, the one where the oil still burns darker than the rest. I switched jobs after that, no more night shifts. But every now and then, I hear a voice behind me when I wash my hands. The faucet creaks and I swear it whispers in Marty's raspy tone, "The urinal's free, kid. Don't be shy." I used to think the graveyard shift was the easiest money you could make. No customers, no managers, just a headset and the hum of fluorescent lights. That changed the night I met the man who called himself the King. Royal Grill sat, wedged between a closed pawn shop and a car wash that hadn't worked since 2012. The only people who came through after midnight were truckers or the homeless. I was 23, saving for school and fine with solitude. The job gave me peace. At 2:05 a.m., I was mopping when I saw him, sitting in the corner booth, dressed head to toe in a Royal Grill mascot costume, velvet robe, cardboard crown and fake beard glued crooked under his chin. I hadn't seen anyone walk in. The bell above the door never rang. "Sir?" I called. "The dining area's closed." He didn't move, just waved one slow hand and said through the plastic mouth, "I demand to be served." I thought maybe he was drunk. "Sure. I can make you a Flame King, but you'll have to pay first." He stood and moved toward the counter in jerky, puppet-like steps. "You dare speak of money to a king?" His voice was flat, rehearsed, and almost robotic. "$6.49, I said, trying to keep my tone steady. He reached into the donation jar on the counter, coins meant for a children's hospital, and dumped a handful on the register. "Keep the change," he said. "Never ask me to pay again in my kingdom." My gut told me to lock up and call the cops, but something in his stillness froze me. I made the sandwich quickly, bun, lettuce, tomato, the works, then slid it across the counter. "Here you go, sir. Have a good night." He didn't take it. "A king must never eat with his own hands," he said. "Feed me," I stared. "I'm sorry, what?" "Feed me." The two words came out slow, like air leaking from a tire. Every training video in existence told me never to engage. But my hands were shaking, and fear makes you stupid. I picked up the burger, stepped closer, and said, "Okay, open wide." His mouth opened, and kept opening. It wasn't human, his jaw unhinged like a hinge coming loose from wood. The sound was wet and tearing. The fake beard split down the middle. For one heartbeat, I saw raw skin and teeth far too deep. Before I could move, he lunged. The pain was white-hot and impossible. His teeth clamped around my wrist, right through the glove, right through me. He bit down and tore, I screamed. He didn't stop. He kept chewing. I felt cartilage snap. Then I was free, stumbling backward, blood running down my sleeve in hot streams. I remember falling, hitting the tile and the ceiling light swirling in a halo around his crown as he leaned over me. When I woke up, everything was white, the sheets, the lights, the bandages where my hand used to be. My parents sat in the corner, faces blank with practiced calm. A nurse told me I'd been found unconscious in the parking lot. According to the report, an animal attack had occurred. Somehow an alligator had crawled up from the drainage canal behind the restaurant and bitten me while I was taking out the trash. I laughed until it hurt. "There's no gator behind Royal Grill," I said. "Just pavement." My father looked away. My mother squeezed my shoulder too tight. "Corporate explained everything," she whispered. "It was an accident." But she wouldn't meet my eyes. When they released me 2 weeks later, I went back. The police tape was gone, the windows replaced. A now hiring sign hung where my blood had stained the glass. I stood by the dumpster where they said they found me. The asphalt was clean, pressure washed to gray. No blood, no gator tracks, nothing. I talked to a coworker from day shift, a guy named Theo. He said corporate erased the security footage the next morning. Data corruption, they claimed. The cameras had gone black around 2 a.m. for exactly 10 minutes. The 10 minutes were mine. Did you see anyone in a costume that night? I asked. Theo blinked. We don't keep the mascot suit anymore, he said. The manager tossed it last month. Said it smelled awful. Mold, maybe. He looked over my shoulder toward the alley. Funny thing, though. Someone keeps leaving crowns out back. Paper ones from the kids' meals. Always folded. Always clean. I thought he was joking until I saw one myself, tucked under the dumpster, bone dry after a rainstorm, sitting upright like someone had just placed it there. I moved apartments a week later. But distance doesn't stop memory. It just stretches it thinner. Every night around 2 o'clock, I awaken to a phantom sensation at the terminus of my arm, as if my absent hand is attempting to grasp. Occasionally, I dream that I'm still holding the burger, still bringing it toward that too wide mouth. Corporate sent me a settlement check and a non-disclosure agreement. I signed it. The rent doesn't pay itself. But each time I pass a Royal Grill, I observe the counter personnel, young employees with headsets, smiling mechanically, and contemplate whether they would heed my request to leave if I asked. Because 2 nights after I came home, I found something in my mailbox, a brown paper bag with grease stains on the bottom and one thing inside, a Flame King wrapper, perfectly folded, no grease, no crumbs. In marker across the front were 3 words written in neat block letters. You still owe. I threw it away. Burned the trash bag in the alley just to be sure. But a week later, another appeared propped against my door like a newspaper delivery. Then another. Each one cleaner than the last. Now I work during the day only in daylight, and I avoid fast food establishments. Still, sometimes when I walk past a dumpster or hear a fryer hiss, I swear I smell sesame and charred meat and something underneath, like copper and salt. They say trauma makes you imagine patterns and see faces where none exist. Maybe that's true. But the other night, as I crossed the parking lot of a gas station, I saw a reflection in the glass door. A man in a robe and a cardboard crown standing under the streetlight, his smile too wide for his face. He lifted his hand and waved, and for a second, my phantom wrist tingled like it remembered the bite. I'd been working nights at the Royal Grill off Kellogg Drive for almost a year, when the man with the skeleton showed up. By then I thought I'd seen everything. Drunks, pranksters, couples fighting through the drive-thru window, but nothing like him. It was a Wednesday near closing, with a quiet drizzle outside. The headset crackled and a voice sang, 2 Flame Kings, 1 for me, 1 for my lady. When the car rolled up, my first thought was that it was a Halloween gag. The driver wore a Hawaiian shirt splattered with bright flowers and had a plastic grin glued to his face. In the passenger seat sat a fully dressed skeleton in a pink blouse and fake pearls. He leaned over the seat and whispered into the skull's ear before turning to me. "She'll have extra cheese," he said, stroking the skeleton's hand. I kept my tone neutral. "Sure thing, sir." He paid in exact change and drove off humming a love song. I laughed about it later with my coworker, Tasha. "Guess love never dies," she said. But he came back the next night. And the next, always the same order, always the same skeleton. Sometimes he'd talk to it while I handed over the bag, whispering things like, "Don't be shy. Jenny, say thank you." After a week, we stopped finding it funny. One night, the skeleton's head had a lipstick kiss mark on its cheek. The man noticed me staring and winked. "You'd be surprised what love can do, sweetheart." His tone made me shiver. The following Friday, the rain poured sideways. We were running short on ingredients, and when he rolled up again, I realized we were completely out of cheese. I took a deep breath and spoke through the speaker. "I'm sorry, sir, but we're out of American tonight." Silence. Then the same flat voice. Jenny loves cheese. I understand, I said carefully. But we can substitute. He cut me off. Jenny loves cheese. The air in the kitchen felt heavy like static before lightning. I'm sorry, I said, my patience cracking. But maybe Jenny can eat somewhere else tonight. Maybe a graveyard. Tasha's eyes shot wide. Maya, she whispered. Don't. But it was already said. For a moment, the headset went dead. Then faintly, you'll regret that. He didn't come back for a week. I told myself it was over, that he'd found another restaurant to haunt. Then Monday night, 15 minutes before closing, his headlights swept across the lot again. But this time the passenger seat was empty. He didn't use the speaker. Just rolled straight to the window. His eyes were darker than I remembered, pupils blown wide. Jenny's gone, he said softly. You were right. She belongs in the ground. I handed him his order with a shaking hand. Sir, you need to leave, he smiled. I buried her. But she's lonely now. Wants company, I slammed the window shut. Tasha called 911. The man laughed loud enough to cut through the glass. Then he drove off into the rain. 2 nights later, he returned. But this time, he wasn't alone. In the passenger seat slumped a young woman, real, human, breathing just enough for her head to loll with the car's movement. Her hair was tangled and wet, her eyes closed. My stomach dropped. The man waved at the security camera, grinning. Jenny's replacement, he said. This one's real. I could smell the alcohol through the window gap. Sir, please let her go. She wanted cheese, he whispered, pulling something from the glove box. At first I thought it was a wrench. Then I saw the dried rust stains. He looked straight at me, eyes empty. You said graveyard, remember? I hit the silent alarm under the register. He reached across the woman, touching her cheek almost tenderly. You'll see, he said. She's real. I'll prove it. Then he started to swing. The first hit made a sound I can still hear if I close my eyes. Thick and final, like metal through fruit. The second sent blood splattering across the inside of the windshield. The woman didn't even scream. She was too far gone. He kept hitting, muttering the same words between blows. She's real, she's real, she's real. Red smeared across the drive-thru glass. Tasha screamed. I think I did too, but it felt like the sound came from somewhere else. The sirens came fast. Our restaurant's panic button went straight to dispatch. But by the time the cops surrounded his car, he was sitting calmly in the driver's seat, drenched in blood, humming the same tune he'd sung that first night. When they pulled him out, he pointed at me and laughed. She helped, he said. Told me where Jenny belonged. I couldn't breathe. They found the original skeleton later, buried behind an abandoned lot 2 miles away. The man, his name was Patrick Lowell, 47, a former meatpacker, had been released from a psychiatric facility 6 months earlier for delusional attachment disorder. Corporate shut down our Royal Grill for 3 weeks, then quietly reopened it under a new name, Flame Palace. They painted over the drive-thru wall, but the stain seeps through every time it rains. I still work mornings there. I can't explain why. Maybe I need to prove to myself that normal customers still exist, that not every car hides something dead in the passenger seat. But sometimes, when the sun hits the window just right, I swear I see faint handprints. One large, one small, outlined in old blood on the glass, and every so often, a man's voice crackles through the headset even when no car's at the speaker, a whisper almost gentle. Jenny loves cheese.